Welcome back to the Urban Express Deluxe Iowa Edition. Continuing on. So, after much wailing and gnashing of teeth, I was able to, here's the Kickstarter arm, and this is the little bolt that goes right through here. Well, for some reason, this thing would not come out. So I tried many different methods, but I finally drilled it out. You can probably see there's a hole going through it. And once you drill out the inside, it kind of loses its grip on the threads, and you're able to get it out. Now, you see this, if you ignore where I drilled it and stuff, the previous, or somebody who previously owned this, had kind of filed the edges. So I'm thinking maybe they stripped it and then they took a file and tried to get it to where they could get a wrench on it or a socket, and they did a really lousy job. Sometimes in life you just say, really? You know, what were they thinking? So I got that off finally. So I got the cover off. I guess technically I could have pulled it all off, the Kickstarter arm and the cover together, and the gear would have just come with it. But anyhow, the Bone Crusher asked me a long time ago, how do you change the belt on these? Well, this is the belt that was on it, and it is so worn down, it's like super thin. So you can squeeze that and then just loop it off. I'm going to squeeze this clutch again. Come on out of there. Oh, and it'll get your fingers if you're not careful. Oh, ow. That kind of hurt. Anyhow, I've got a BX31 belt. And you might be able to notice this thing is so worn down. This BX31 belt is almost twice as wide. Now, and the BX, and this one is actually not new. I'd used it in my other one for a while, so it's kind of worn down too. But it's so wide that I don't think I can get it down into the clutch far enough to where I can just, it's really close. Well, maybe. Let's see if we can make it happen. We can kind of roll it on. No. So, what you have to do, you have a couple options, a few options, probably even more than that. Oh, that's interesting. They put two washers there. So this is the variator setup. I think it's also called the movable face. You need to take this nut off, but the problem is this spins on the crankshaft. So you can either take a piston stop, which I've hidden from myself. So this is a piston stop. You basically take out the spark plug and then thread this in, and then when you twist this, the piston will hit up against here and stop, and then you can take a wrench or a socket and get that nut off. Or you can take this thing here, it's called a strap wrench, and basically, I've got the gears all over the place, but if you pop the gears out, you can put this over the variator, cinch it down, and hold it, and then turn this nut. Or you can get an impact wrench and just zip this right off with an impact wrench. If you use an impact wrench to put it on, thread it on by hand at first. Well, this is kind of rusty here, these threads. Thread it on by hand at first, and then make sure it's on right, and then use your impact wrench. Don't ask me how I know that. So the other thing you'll have to know, and so you take off this, put the belt on, put this back on. Now the BX31 belt is kind of fat, and so the way I put it back on is I've got, you know, the nut, the washer, and this off. And then I put this on, then I pinch the belt here. Otherwise this will go on crooked, and then you thread the nut and tighten it, and then while you're holding it you tighten it down, and then when you have it fully tightened, let go of the belt. Of course this will be on the clutch part as too. And what you can do before you even take it off, I see that there's like 3 threads showing. Well, I guess I could just use a torque wrench and go to the manual and figure out what the torque is. Or, of course, they've got 2, it looks like they've got an extra washer on here. So, it may be 3 to 4 threads showing. But just check yours. I guess if someone's been here before, you never know what the hell's going on. And then you need to know these gears. A couple things about these gears. And this belt spreads dust everywhere. So the first thing you need to do is clean off the gears so you can see certain marks. And this gear goes here. You may not be able to see it, but there's a little arrow there. And when you put this on, the arrow points towards the crankshaft. So it pretty much just points straight across to the crankshaft. Oops. And keep track of all these washers because you're going to need them. Now the other thing is, sometimes other people have been in here before you, and they may have lost important stuff. And this little arm here fits in a slot right here. So the other thing you want to know is there'll be, usually it's grease pencil, but I don't know if you can see it, but like there's a little line right there. That line this is called the this is part of the Kickstarter spindle, and this one is called the idle shaft. And once you clean it off, you may not be able to see it, but there's like a little punch mark there. And then actually if you turn it on, yeah. There's also a washer that goes here that's important. And then there's also a punch mark on this one too. So back to the spindle assembly. I'll put it all together. I'm back to this thing, the spindle, Kickstarter spindle assembly, which goes more towards the front. On the back of it, there's a special washer, and it's like a small washer laying on top of a larger washer, and they're like fused together. It goes on here like that with the small washer pointing in towards the bike. So, if you can follow, this points to the crankshaft. You'll need to find that little mark right here. That should be at about 2 o'clock, somewhere between 2 and 3 o'clock. And then there's a little punch mark here. That'll be at about 3 o'clock too. And then as you can see, I'm missing teeth. I had to order this Kickstarter spindle. I found it on eBay. And not only that, the part it mates to is missing a tooth as well. So I had to order this. So I'm waiting to get these two parts. Found them both on eBay. They weren't, compared to what others were asking, they weren't terribly expensive. And then I'll just show you the back side. You got the spring and you got this collar. And you can, take the spring off. It just fits in like that. So if it falls off, don't freak out. It all works out. And then there are bushings here. And there's a small one in here. And I can't get my fat finger in there to get it out. So now, and there's also a washer on the Kickstarter spindle. And there's also a bushing that, this has got all kinds of, there's also a bushing right here for the idle shaft to go into. So when you switch the belt, you got to know how all this stuff goes back together, or it's not going to be fun. So again, oh damn it. Keep track of all these parts, man, don't lose them. Again, we got the washer on the back. We got the arrow pointing to the crankshaft. We got this at about, are we on camera? Yeah. We got this arm, I forget what it's called, at about 4:30, 5 o'clock. Underneath here, we've got this one at about 2 o'clock, and this punch mark at about 3 o'clock. So let's put all that on. Now, mine's not going to work because I'm missing those teeth, but just for the purpose of demonstration, we'll use it anyways. All right, so we got that on. Now, and make sure the washer's on the front. Now, take this and turn it kind of like this, and basically slide it in, and by the way, chopsticks are great tools for working on these things because you can scrape off oil and dirt and gunk without worrying about scratching up metal parts, instead of using things like a screwdriver or other metal objects to scrape, because then you'll screw it up. So back here, this punch mark, should match up with that line, and I'm a little off. But here, this punch mark should match up with this punch mark. So they're kind of across from each other. This is close enough. That line points straight over this way towards the crankshaft, and then that arm's in its slot, washer, washer. Now, this is where mine doesn't work. You take this spring and you put it back here. Now, since I don't have all my teeth, and you make sure all the teeth are meshed together, since I don't have all my teeth, this slips. And so that's why I got to get these two new parts, because it's not going to work otherwise. And then, of course, assume you've got the belt on too. I'll put the old belt on since it's somewhat easy to get on. Maybe. Come on, you can do it. That pinched my fingers good the first time. Boy, I tell you, that was no fun. Come on. All right. So assume those are all lined up. Then, and as I said, there's a bushing here, don't forget about. Make sure that doesn't fall out. Then you've got to slide this over everything very carefully. Have the spindle come through here. Once the spindle pops through, push on it. Push the spindle in so that it holds everything together. Get your cover on, but don't screw it on yet. And so now just pretend the cover's on. Then you'll want to take this, slide it on the spindle, and then get it where you want it. And once it's slid on and this cover's on, push it down about, I don't know, I think they say 15 degrees in the manual. Hold that down while pushing in, and then screw all your 8 bolts in to attach the cover to the other half of the cover. And there you have it. So, how are we doing? Ooh, this is running kind of long. So anyways, I got to wait on parts, unfortunately. But we're getting closer. So we found out what was wrong with the kickstart, and of course I have no idea how you break the teeth on these kickstart parts. I just don't get that. You know, how does that happen? But you know, anything goes. You know, you'll see it all if you're around these things long enough. And then this belt dust gets everywhere. You can kind of clean it up the best you can. This has got a ton of belt dust in it. And then, so I'll work on that a little more later. And then when you're putting all your bolts in, don't forget to put this little hose holder thing in. This thing's a mess. I have to clean it off. But I think your battery drain hose or maybe your carburetor drain hose or both can run through that. So there you have it. How to put on a new belt and get your Kickstarter back working again after doing that. Now the other thing you can do is when you have this off, you can pull out the variator, pop the top off, and if it's the stock with the 6 weights, take every other weight out. So take 3 weights out, have the other 3 spaced evenly in it, and that'll give you more takeoff, you know, from a stop, more low end torque, well, not really torque, but basically more low end, so that you can start faster from a stop. Anyhow, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.